My name is Ulysses. I'm 63 years old. My hands shake when I hold a coffee cup. People see me and think, harmless, forgettable, done. That's exactly what they were counting on. 3 weeks ago, I got a voicemail from my daughter that made my blood run cold. Her voice, the one that used to challenge college professors and win debates, was small, broken, afraid. Dad, they're saying things about me that aren't true. I don't know what to do anymore. My daughter Kayla is 28, brilliant, a lawyer at one of the city's most prestigious firms. She doesn't scare easily, but someone had scared her. And when I showed up at her apartment that night and saw what they'd done to her, the weight she'd lost, the fear in her eyes, the evidence of systematic destruction, I made a decision. They thought I was too old to fight back. They thought a retired machinist couldn't touch people in expensive suits. They were wrong. See, they forgot something important about old men like me. We've spent our entire lives learning patience, precision, how to take machines apart piece by piece until we find the one bolt that holds everything together. And once you know where to apply pressure, the whole thing falls apart. What you're about to hear is the story of how I dismantled 3 careers, exposed a corrupt law firm, and protected my daughter without raising my voice once. They almost destroyed her. They forgot I was still her father. And that was their first mistake. But here's what I need from you right now. If you want to see how an invisible old man became the nightmare that lawyers like Elijah, Henry, and Lily never saw coming, you need to subscribe to this channel immediately. Hit that bell icon so you don't miss a single chapter. Because what happened, you won't believe it. Drop a comment telling me. Have you ever had to protect someone you love from people who underestimated you? I read every single one. And smash that like button if you believe that age isn't weakness. It's a weapon when you know how to use it. The story starts now, and I promise you, by the end, you'll never look at revenge the same way again. Let's begin. The voicemail came on a Tuesday. I was in my garage organizing tools I'd probably never use again when my phone buzzed. Kayla's name lit up the screen. I almost answered. Almost. But I'd already talked to her that week, and she'd sounded fine. Busy with work, tired, but fine. So I let it go to voicemail and went back to sorting through boxes of Martha's things that I still hadn't been able to throw away. 3 years since cancer took my wife. 3 years of this house feeling too big and too quiet. I told myself Kayla was building her own life, that she didn't need her old man calling every day, asking if she was eating enough or getting enough sleep. She was 28, a lawyer, independent. I told myself a lot of things that week. All of them were wrong. It wasn't until Friday, 3 days and 6 more missed calls later, that I finally listened to that first voicemail. Her voice hit me like a fist to the chest. Dad, I don't know what to do anymore. They're saying things about me that aren't true. Elijah won't stop. Henry's on his side now. I feel like I'm losing my mind. I need to talk to someone. Call me back, please. My hands started shaking. Not the usual tremor, but something deeper. Fear. Kayla doesn't break. When she was 16, she stared down a high school principal who tried to suspend her for talking back when she'd corrected a teacher's factually wrong statement about the Constitution. When she was in law school, she once spent 48 hours straight studying for the bar exam while battling the flu. My daughter is a fighter, but in that voicemail, she sounded defeated. I called her back immediately. It rang 4 times, then went to voicemail. I called again. Same thing. Then I texted, Kayla, it's Dad. I'm here. Call me back. Nothing. I paced my kitchen for 20 minutes, my mind racing through worst case scenarios. Then I grabbed my keys and drove to her apartment across town, breaking every speed limit on the way. When Kayla finally opened her door, after 10 minutes of knocking, I barely recognized her. Dark circles under her eyes, hair unwashed and pulled back in a messy knot. She'd lost weight, enough that her sweater hung loose on her frame, but it was her eyes that gutted me. Hollow, exhausted, afraid. Dad, she whispered, glancing nervously down the hallway like someone might be watching. You shouldn't have come. I stepped inside without asking permission and closed the door behind me. Her apartment, usually immaculate, organized, law books stacked neatly on shelves, was a disaster. Takeout containers on the coffee table, papers scattered everywhere, the blinds drawn. Kayla, what's going on? She opened her mouth to speak, then just started crying. Not the kind of crying you do when you're sad. The kind you do when you've been holding something in so long it's poisoning you from the inside. I pulled her into a hug, and she collapsed against me like all the strength had finally drained out. It's complicated, Dad, she managed between sobs. Then uncomplicated for me, I said quietly. Who's hurting you? She pulled back, wiping her eyes with the sleeve of her sweater. His name is Elijah Morrison. He's a senior partner at my firm, and he's trying to destroy my career. I felt something cold settle in my chest. Start from the beginning. And she did. It took her an hour to tell me everything. How she'd been assigned to a major corporate fraud case 3 months ago. How she'd spent weeks buried in research, tracing money trails, finding the smoking gun that would win the case, an email chain proving the CEO had known about the fraud all along. How Elijah had taken that research, put his name on it, and presented it to the client as his own work. How, when she'd confronted him privately, he smiled and told her, "This is how it works, sweetheart. You do the work, I get the credit. And if you complain, I'll make sure you never work in this city again." How Henry, a colleague she'd trusted, someone she'd considered a friend, had backed Elijah's story when she tried to escalate it. Told the other partners that Kayla had been struggling with the workload and that Elijah had saved the case. How they started building a file against her, documenting missed deadlines that didn't exist, emotional outbursts that never happened, creating a narrative that she was unstable, difficult, not a team player. "They're going to fire me, Dad," she said, her voice hollow, "or force me to quit. And there's nothing I can do about it. Elijah's untouchable. He brings in millions for the firm. Henry's his golden boy. And the managing partner, Lily Chen, she's Elijah's friend. They vacation together." She looked at me with those broken eyes. I did everything right, and they're going to win anyway. I sat there for a long moment, processing everything she told me. Then I asked the question that changed everything. "Kayla, do you have proof of your work on the case?" Her eyes widened slightly. "Yes, I kept copies of everything." "Why?" I stood up, my knees protesting, and looked at my daughter, this brilliant woman who'd been beaten down by people who should have been protecting her. "Because liars always make one mistake," I said quietly. "They assume everyone else is as careless as they are." "Dad, what are you going to do?" I met her gaze. "What I should have done the first time you called. I'm going to protect my daughter." For the first time in weeks, I saw something flicker in her eyes. Hope. I didn't sleep that night. After Kayla finally fell asleep on her couch, the first real rest she'd had in weeks, I sat at her kitchen table with her laptop and started reading. She'd given me access to everything, every email, every document, every piece of research she'd done on the fraud case against Meridian Health's former CEO. I'm not a lawyer. I barely made it through high school. But I can read. And I know the difference between original work and theft. What I found made my hands stop shaking and start clenching into fists. Kayla's research was brilliant. Even I could see that. She traced shell companies, offshore accounts, falsified invoices, building a case so airtight that the CEO would have no choice but to settle or face prison. The work was dated, time-stamped, saved in her cloud storage. Proof that she'd done everything herself over 8 weeks of late nights and weekends. Then I opened Elijah's filing to the client, the brief he'd submitted under his name, word for word. He hadn't even bothered to change most of it, just copied her work, pasted it into his own template, and slapped his name on it. In some places, he'd even kept her typos, a there that should have been there, a misplaced comma, sloppy, arrogant, and utterly damning. But that wasn't what broke me. What broke me was what I found when I kept digging. I'm good with machines because I understand patterns, how things fit together, how when one part fails, it affects everything else. So I started looking for patterns in Kayla's emails. I found one that made me sick. Elijah's messages to her had started professional 3 months ago. Compliments on her work ethic, praise for her research skills. Then they'd shifted, slowly, deliberately, into something else. Late night texts, still burning the midnight oil, don't work too hard. Comments about her appearance. You look sharp in court today, Kayla. Made an impression. Invitations that felt wrong. We should celebrate this win, just the two of us. You've earned it. Kayla had deflected every single one, professional, polite, firm. And that's when Elijah had turned on her. The timeline was clear. The moment she'd found the evidence that would win the case, the moment she became truly valuable, he'd tried to take everything from her. But there was more. I found an email thread between Elijah, Henry, and Isla from HR, dated 2 days after Kayla had submitted her research. Subject line, Kayla Morrison concerns. Henry had written, Elijah, I'm noticing some performance issues with Kayla lately. She seems defensive about feedback, missed our last team meeting, and I'm concerned about her ability to handle client pressure. Should we document this? I checked Kayla's calendar. She hadn't missed any meeting. This was a fabrication. Elijah's response, good catch, Henry. Let's start building a file. Isla, can you note this in her HR record? I want to make sure we have documentation if this becomes a pattern. Isla's reply, noted. We'll monitor. They were building a case to destroy her before she even knew she was under attack. My vision blurred red. These people, these professionals in their expensive suits, had conspired to gaslight my daughter, steal her work, and ruin her reputation. And they'd almost succeeded. I sat back in Kayla's kitchen chair at 3 a.m., staring at the evidence on the screen. I could go to the police, but what crime had they technically committed? Workplace theft isn't usually criminal. It's civil. And civil cases take years and cost money Kayla didn't have. I could go to the media, but that would make Kayla the story. The troubled associate making accusations against a powerful partner. they'd spin it against her. No, this required something different. I thought about my 40 years in the machine shop, about how you don't fix a broken machine by hitting it with a hammer. You take it apart, carefully, methodically. You find the weak points, the bolts that hold everything together, and you apply pressure exactly where it matters most. Then you watch the whole thing collapse from the inside. Elijah, Henry, and Lily thought they were untouchable, protected by power, money, and connections. But every machine has a breaking point. I just had to find theirs. As the sun started rising, I found something else in Kayla's files. Something she probably didn't even realize was significant. A billing statement from Elijah's cases over the past 2 years. Hundreds of hours billed to clients. Astronomical fees. And a note Kayla had written to herself in the margin. Check this. Numbers don't match the work logs. She'd been too buried in her own case to follow up. But I wasn't. I opened a new document and started cross-referencing. Elijah's billed hours versus the actual work documented in the files. Client charges versus time spent. The discrepancies were massive. Elijah hadn't just stolen Kayla's work. He'd been defrauding clients for years. And if there's one thing more powerful than workplace politics, it's money. Specifically, rich people discovering they've been robbed. I grabbed my phone and took photos of everything. Then I looked at my daughter sleeping on the couch, finally peaceful. I'm going to fix this, I whispered. Not with anger, not with violence, with something far more dangerous, the truth, delivered to exactly the right people at exactly the right time. They thought I was just a scared old man trying to protect his daughter. They had no idea who they were dealing with. Being over 60 has one advantage nobody talks about. You become invisible. Waitresses forget your order. Store clerks look right through you. Security guards wave you past without a second glance. For 3 years after Martha died, that invisibility nearly killed me. Made me feel like I was fading away, becoming irrelevant. But that Tuesday morning, standing outside Kayla's law firm in my only good suit, the one I wore to Martha's funeral, I realized something. Invisibility is a weapon. The building was all glass and steel, the kind of place that made my monthly social security check look like pocket change. I pushed through the revolving door and approached the reception desk. A young woman in her 20s sat there, typing on her phone. She didn't look up. Can I help you? She asked, still scrolling. I'm here to see my daughter, I said, keeping my voice uncertain, elderly. Kayla Morrison. We have lunch plans, but I think I'm early. Is there a bathroom I could use? She sighed and pointed toward the elevators without checking any schedule. 14th floor. Bathrooms are by the elevators on every floor. Thank you, dear, I said, shuffling toward the elevator like my knees hurt worse than they actually did. Invisible. I rode the elevator up, but I didn't go to 14. I pressed 12, the administrative floor Kayla had mentioned, where HR kept their files, where the real business of the firm happened away from clients and courtrooms. The 12th floor was quieter, fewer people. I stepped out and immediately adopted the confused old man routine, checking door numbers, squinting at directory signs, looking lost. A paralegal rushed past me without a glance. A junior associate held the door open, barely making eye contact. Perfect. I wandered slowly, ears open, eyes scanning everything. Most offices had their doors closed, but I could hear voices, arguments about briefs, phone calls with clients. Then I found what I was looking for, a break room with the door propped open, and inside a bulletin board covered in corporate announcements, memos, schedules. I stepped inside like I was just looking for coffee, poured myself a cup with shaking hands. Some of that shake was real, some was performance. And there, half hidden under a memo about parking validation, I saw it. A printed email chain. Subject, Kayla Morrison, performance documentation. My heart hammered as I pulled out my phone. Kayla had taught me how to take photos. I pretended to read a text message while actually photographing the document. From Henry to Elijah Morrison, Ila Torres, HR, Lily Chen date. 3 months ago, Elijah, per our conversation, I'm documenting concerns about Kayla's recent performance. She's been increasingly resistant to feedback, missed our strategy session last Thursday, and I'm worried about her ability to handle the pressure of the Meridian case. Recommend we start building a file in case we need to address this formally. I knew from Kayla's calendar she hadn't missed any meeting. This was complete fabrication. But it was Lily Chen's response that made my blood run cold. Agreed. Isla, please begin documentation. Elijah, make sure you're noting any incidents in real time. We need to protect the firm. They weren't just tolerating Elijah's theft. They were actively conspiring to destroy Kayla's credibility before she could fight back. Those are confidential documents. I nearly dropped my phone. A woman stood in the doorway, mid-40s, gray-streaked hair pulled back, sharp eyes behind wireframe glasses. Her badge read, Isla Torres, HR Director. My mind raced. This was the woman who'd helped build the case against Kayla. I waited for her to call security. Instead, she stepped inside and closed the break room door. You're Kayla Morrison's father, she said quietly. Not a question. I nodded slowly, preparing for the worst. Isla looked at the bulletin board, then back at me. Her jaw was tight. How long have you known what they're doing to her? About a week, I said carefully. She was quiet for a long moment then. I have a daughter. She's 26, in medical school. Her voice cracked slightly. If someone did to her what Elijah is doing to Kayla, I'd want to burn the whole system down. I stared at her. You're HR. You wrote that email. I know what I wrote, she interrupted, pain flashing across her face. And I've regretted it every single day since. Lily pressured me. Said it was protecting the firm. That Kayla was overreacting to normal workplace dynamics. I told myself I was just doing my job. She reached into her bag and pulled out a flash drive. But 2 weeks ago, I started paying attention. Really paying attention. And I found something. She pressed the flash drive into my hand. Billing records. 3 years' worth. There's a pattern if you know where to look. Why are you giving me this? Her eyes hardened. Because Elijah did this before. To a woman named Rachel Chen 3 years ago. Brilliant associate. He stole her work on a securities case, then had her pushed out when she complained. She's selling real estate in Ohio now because no firm would touch her after Elijah destroyed her reputation. Isla's voice shook with anger. I helped him do it. I wrote the HR documentation that made it possible, and I've had to live with that. She moved toward the door, then looked back. I'm 51 years old, Mr. Morrison, and I'm invisible here too. They don't notice when I'm in meetings. They don't watch what they say around me. They don't know what I've seen. What's on this drive? I asked. Everything you need to end Elijah Morrison's career, she said. But you have to be smart about it. If this comes back to me before the right moment, Lily will bury it and me both. Why should I trust you? You shouldn't, she said honestly. But your daughter deserves better than what this firm did to her. And so did Rachel. Make it count. She opened the door, checked the hallway, and walked away without another word. I stood there holding a flash drive that could change everything, my heart pounding in my chest. I left the building 30 minutes later, walking slowly, invisibly, just another old man nobody noticed. But I wasn't empty handed anymore. I had evidence. I had an unexpected ally. And I had something Elijah and Henry didn't have: patience. They'd spent months systematically destroying my daughter. Now it was my turn to be systematic, methodical, precise, not with anger, not with vengeance, with the cold, careful application of pressure to exactly the right weak points. I got in my car and drove home, already planning my next move. I didn't open the flash drive immediately. That night, I sat at my kitchen table with Kayla's evidence on one side and Isla's flash drive on the other. I made myself a pot of coffee, the real stuff Martha used to say would put hair on my chest. And I thought about strategy. 40 years in a machine shop taught me one critical lesson. You don't fix a complex problem by attacking everything at once. You find the single point of failure, the one bolt that holds the whole structure together. Remove it carefully, and everything else falls apart on its own. For Elijah's operation, that bolt was money. When I finally plugged in Isla's flash drive, I found a spreadsheet that made my hands stop shaking and start moving with purpose. 3 years of billing records, hundreds of entries, and a pattern so obvious I couldn't believe nobody had caught it before. Elijah had a system. He'd assigned junior associates, people like Kayla, to do intensive research on major cases. They'd work 80-hour weeks, building arguments, finding evidence, crafting strategies. Then Elijah would take their work, slap his name on it, and bill clients at his senior partner rate, $850 per hour. But here's what made it fraud. He'd also bill for partner review time that never happened, phantom hours, invented meetings, strategy sessions that were just him forwarding the associates' work to clients. One case jumped out at me: Meridian Health versus Peterson Pharmaceuticals, Kayla's case, the one Elijah had stolen from her. According to the billing records, Elijah had charged Meridian $340,000 for his work on the case. But when I cross-referenced the metadata on the actual documents, Kayla had taught me how to check that. The files showed they'd been created by Kayla, every single one. Elijah had billed for 400 hours of work he'd never done. And Meridian Health wasn't the only victim. I found 5 other cases with the same pattern. Different associates, different clients, same theft. Millions of dollars in fraudulent billing. But what really caught my attention was a note in the margins of the spreadsheet. Isla's handwriting: check MH billing dispute, March 2024. I dug deeper into the Meridian file and found an email exchange. Ulysses Grant, and yes, that was really his name, was Meridian Health's general counsel. 6 months ago, he'd questioned a billing statement from Elisha's firm, from Ulysses Grant to Lily Chen. Lily, I'm seeing charges here for 47 hours of senior partner strategy development on a single brief. That seems excessive for a 12-page motion. Can you provide itemization? Lily had responded with corporate smoothness, offering a courtesy adjustment of $15,000 and assuring Ulysses that Elisha's work was comprehensive and crucial to the case outcome. Ulysses had accepted, but his response was telling. Appreciated, Lily. but I'll need more detailed billing going forward. Our board is asking questions about legal spend efficiency. Translation: he didn't fully trust them. He just didn't have enough evidence to push back harder. I sat back in my chair and smiled for the first time in days. Ulysses Grant was my bolt. I spent the next 2 days crafting an email. Kayla helped me make it sound professional, legitimate, untraceable. We set up an anonymous email account using a coffee shop's Wi Fi. The subject line was simple: regarding Meridian Health versus Patterson Pharma. Billing irregularities you should know about. The email was carefully worded. I didn't accuse anyone directly. That would have gotten me ignored or sued. Instead, I posed as a concerned former paralegal who'd noticed irregularities in billing practices and thought Meridian's legal team might want to conduct an internal audit. I attached 3 documents. 1. A comparison showing identical language in Meridian's legal briefs and another client's case from 18 months earlier, proving Elijah had billed both clients for the same work too. Metadata showing the Meridian documents were created by K. Morrison, not Elijah 3. A spreadsheet highlighting 400 hours of build time with no corresponding work product. At the bottom, I added one line. I'd recommend your finance team review all billings from Elijah Morrison's team over the past 36 months. The patterns are concerning. I showed it to Kayla before sending. She read it twice, then looked at me with tears in her eyes. Dad, if this works, it'll work, I said quietly, because it's not about revenge. It's about truth. And the truth is that Elijah stole from his clients. We're just making sure the right people know. I hit send at 6:47 p.m. on a Wednesday night. Then we waited. 4 days later, Kayla called me from the office, whispering urgently, Dad, something's happening. Elijah's been in closed-door meetings all day. Lily looks furious, and there are people here I've never seen before. They're not from our firm. What kind of people? Suits, briefcases. They went straight to Lily's office with security badges that said Meridian Health Legal Department. My pulse quickened. Anything else? HR just pulled all of Elijah's case files, every single one. They're being boxed up right now. I could hear the hope creeping into her voice, the first real hope in months. Dad, did you do this? I just pointed some people toward information they deserve to have, I said carefully. What they do with it is up to them. She was quiet for a moment, then, I love you. I love you too, sweetheart. Now get back to work. Keep your head down. Let the machine take itself apart. That night, the local business news ran a story. Prominent law firm under investigation for billing practices. I turned up the volume. Sources confirm that Meridian Health has filed a formal complaint with the State Bar Association alleging fraudulent billing by senior partner Elijah Morrison. The firm has declined comment, but insiders say multiple clients are now conducting their own audits of legal fees. Kayla texted me a photo. Elijah's office, door closed, lights off. A paper sign taped to the door. On administrative leave. I sat in my living room alone and let myself feel it. Not triumph, not yet, but satisfaction, cold, precise, deserved. The first domino had fallen. 3 weeks after Elijah's suspension, I got a call that made my blood run cold. Dad, someone's been asking questions about you. Kayla's voice was tight, controlled, the way it gets when she's trying not to panic. I was in my garage, organizing the tools I'd used to rebuild Martha's old sewing table. My hands stopped mid-motion. What kind of questions? A private investigator came to the firm yesterday, said he was doing background work for the bar investigation. But Dad, he wasn't asking about Elijah. He was asking about me, about you, whether our family had any connections to Meridian Health, whether you'd ever worked in the legal industry. My chest tightened. Who hired him? I don't know for sure, but Isla pulled me aside in the parking garage this morning. She said Lily's been paranoid since the audit started, convinced someone's feeding information to Meridian's lawyers. They were hunting for me. I didn't have to wait long. 2 days later, a black Mercedes pulled into my driveway at 7 p.m. I watched from my living room window as Lily Chen stepped out, dressed in a sharp gray suit like she was heading into a boardroom battle. She didn't knock, just walked straight into my open garage like she owned the place. "Mr. Morrison," she said, her voice cold and precise, "we need to talk." I kept wiping down my workbench, didn't look up. "I don't think we do." "Elijah Morrison's career is destroyed," she said flatly. "His law license is suspended. He'll likely be disbarred. Meridian and 4 other clients have left our firm. We're facing a class action lawsuit for billing fraud. Our reputation is in ruins." "Sounds like poor management," I replied. She stepped closer, and I finally looked at her. She was smaller than I'd expected, tired lines around her eyes. But there was steel there too. "I know it was you," she said. I set down my rag and met her gaze. "You know what I think, Miss Chen. I think you got comfortable. You built a firm where people like Elijah could steal from associates and clients because it made money. And when my daughter, a brilliant lawyer who did everything right, came to you with a problem, you helped bury her instead of protecting her." Lily's jaw tightened. "You don't understand how law firms work." "You're right," I said quietly. "I don't. I just understand right and wrong. And you chose wrong." "What do you want?" she asked after a long silence. "I want my daughter's career back," I said. "I want her name cleared. I want a formal acknowledgement that she was the lead attorney on the Meridian case, and I want her promoted to junior partner with full credit for her work." "That's impossible," Lily said. "The firm is barely surviving." I pulled up my phone and showed her the photos I'd taken from the bulletin board. The emails where she, Elijah, and Henry had conspired to build a fake performance file against Kayla. Her face went white. "Conspiracy to retaliate against a whistleblower," I said calmly. "The state bar would be very interested in these. So would Meridian's lawyers. So would every client you still have left." "You're bluffing." "Try me." We stared at each other for a long moment. Then something shifted in her expression. The steel cracked, just slightly. "If I do this," she said slowly, "if I give Kayla everything you're asking for, what happens to those emails?" "I give them to Kayla," I said, "and she decides what to do with them." That night, I showed Kayla everything. The emails, the evidence, the power to destroy Lily's career the same way they tried to destroy hers. She stared at the documents for a long time. Then she looked up at me with tears in her eyes. "Dad, do you remember what Mom used to say about breaking cycles?" I nodded. Martha's voice echoed in my memory. "Hurt people, but healed people heal people." "I could destroy Lily," Kayla said softly. "I could send these to the Bar Association, to the media, to every client the firm has left. I could make sure she never works again." "You'd have every right to," I said. "But would it fix anything?" She wiped her eyes. "Or would it just make me like them?" I stayed quiet. letting her work through it. I want the promotion, she said finally. The credit, the apology, all of it. But Dad, I don't want to destroy Lily. I want her to fix what she built. She turned to me. I want her to stay on as managing partner on one condition, that she creates a real ethics oversight board, independent, with teeth, so this can never happen to anyone else. I look at my daughter, this woman who'd been beaten down and was choosing to build something better instead of burning it all to the ground. You're better than I am, I whispered. She smiled sadly. No, I just had a better teacher. 2 days later, Lily called me, asked if we could meet at the same park where Kayla used to play as a child. We sat on a bench overlooking the lake. She brought coffee. Neither of us spoke for several minutes. Then, I was Kayla once, Lily said quietly. I turned to her. 32 years ago, I was a first-year associate in New York. A senior partner named Richard Strauss stole my work on a major securities case. When I complained to HR, they pushed me out, told me I was difficult, that I wasn't a cultural fit. She stared at the water. I promised myself I'd never be that powerless again, so I clawed my way up, made myself untouchable. Built walls so high nobody could hurt me, and became the person who hurt you, I said. She nodded, tears running down her face. I told myself I was protecting the firm, but I was just protecting my own fear. She pulled an envelope from her bag and handed it to me. Inside was a letter of recommendation for Kayla, written on firm letterhead. Your daughter will be a named partner within 5 years, Lily said. And when she is, she'll be the kind of leader I should have been. Then she said something that shocked me. Henry came to see me yesterday. He quit. Said he couldn't live with what he'd done to Kayla. He's going to therapy, trying to figure out why he became someone who'd betray a friend for career advancement. She looked at me. You didn't just save your daughter, Mr. Morrison. You held up a mirror to all of us. And some of us are finally looking at what we became. 6 months after everything settled, a letter arrived. Plain envelope, no return address, handwritten, from Elijah. My first instinct was to throw it away, but something made me open it. Mr. Morrison, you don't know me, but you destroyed my life. I deserved it. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I haven't earned it. But I need you to know something. I've spent 6 months working at a legal aid clinic. Pro bono cases, helping people who can't afford lawyers. The pay is nothing, but for the first time in 20 years, I feel like I'm doing something that matters. Last week, a woman came in, single mother. Her landlord was trying to evict her illegally. I spent 40 hours on her case, won it. She cried when I told her. And I realized something. I spent 2 decades stealing credit from people like Kayla because I was terrified of being ordinary, of not being the smartest person in the room. But helping that mother, that was the first time I'd felt extraordinary in years. You showed me what real integrity looks like, Mr. Morrison. You protected your daughter without destroying everyone in your path. You chose justice over revenge. I'm trying to learn how to do the same. Also, I've been meeting with Rachel Chen, the associate I destroyed 3 years ago, helping her prepare for the bar exam. She's going to pass. She's going to be an incredible lawyer. Thank you for stopping me before I destroyed anyone else. Elijah. I read it 3 times, then called Kayla. He wrote to you too, she asked. Yeah. Did you respond? I met with him last week, she said quietly. Dad, He's different, really different. He's trying. That's something else, Kayla said. Rachel called me yesterday. She passed the bar, and Lily offered her a position at the firm with full mentorship protection and a seat on the new ethics board. My throat tightened. That's that's good. Dad, there are 5 other associates who've come forward since the investigation. People Elijah or other partners had silenced over the years. The firm is settling with all of them. Fair compensation, public apologies, and Lily's using it as a case study to rebuild the entire culture. She paused. Henry called too. He's in therapy. He wanted me to know he's working on understanding why he became someone who'd betray a friend. He didn't ask for forgiveness, just wanted me to know he's trying to be better. I sat down heavily. So everyone just gets a happy ending. No, Kayla said softly. Everyone gets a chance at redemption, which is different. Some people will take it, some won't. But Dad, isn't that better than just destroying them? That night, I sat in my garage, the place where this all started, and thought about revenge. I could have destroyed Elijah, buried Henry, ruined Lily, and I almost did. But my daughter taught me something better. Revenge is easy. It's satisfying in the moment, but it leaves you empty. Justice, real justice, requires restraint, precision, and sometimes the courage to give people the chance to become better than they were. 2 years later, Kayla made junior partner. The ethics board is now a model for other firms. Rachel works alongside her. Elijah still does legal aid work. Henry volunteers teaching legal ethics at the local community college. Lily retired last month. She volunteers with an organization helping women fight workplace discrimination. And me? I'm still invisible to most people, but I'm not empty anymore. I'm a father who protected his daughter, not with violence or endless revenge, but with strategy, patience, and the belief that even broken people deserve the chance to heal. They almost destroyed my daughter. They forgot I was still her father. And I never forgot what Martha taught me. The hardest, most powerful thing you can do isn't breaking people. It's helping them become whole. If this story moved you, if it made you think differently about revenge and forgiveness, I need you to do something. Subscribe to this channel. Share this story with someone who needs to hear it. Hit that like button if you believe in second chances. And comment below. What would you have done? Would you have chosen revenge or redemption? Because here's the truth. We all face moments where we can destroy someone who hurt us. But the real question is, what kind of person do we want to be when the dust settles? Thank you for walking this journey with me, for believing an old man could make a difference. More stories are coming. Stories about ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Subscribe now. You won't want to miss them. And remember, you're never too old, too tired, or too invisible to protect the people you love. This is Ulysses signing off. But I'll be back